8 teams looking that are not in the 22 team format. They're looking towards next season. And when you look at next season, there are many teams that could have a big jump in wins. So, which team do you think can make the biggest jump next season? Alvin, we'll start with you.
I would say Warriors, but they're just dealing with injuries. But one team I think is the Atlanta Hawks. They have all their pieces set. They just have to execute. I have to give it up for GM Travis Schlennick for building around Trey Young and drafting really good. I mean, getting John Collins was a huge steal. I mean, it wasn't a steal like you got him at like around a 15 pick, around like a steal, but it was a good draft pick for him because he's like a top two scorer for them. And then also getting Clint Capella on that team, I think that's huge for Trey Young because now, I mean, like that's huge because now you have a star player, like kind of a star player, a decent player, a really good center on that team because Trey Young needed a little bit of more help, and now you have that with Clint Capella. And then now, I mean, Kevin Herter is a good role player to have. You still have rookies like DeAndre Hunter and Cam Reddish on that team who haven't had those points. John Collins, like he's been averaging 21.6 points per game, but no one talks about him. And then they were the worst team on defense too, but now they have a great center to block shots. I mean, that's all. They have a center in there to like protect the paint. I mean, now you have a good defense. I mean, like you wouldn't go straight to saying they have a good defense, but now they have a defense that can actually stop players instead of just letting people score. I think that's one of the main problems that Atlanta Hawks had this year. That's just their defense.
Yeah, I think that the reason why they don't get talked about much is because they are a team that's very low in the standings. They're I think 14th or 13th. That's why I think they don't get talked about much. Like you said, John Collins is averaging 20 points, and I agree with you on most of your points that you said. The Warriors, I don't consider them as a team that could make a big jump because they have injuries, but that they did develop their young players, and they could be starters or solid role players. So I think the Warriors can contend next season. So it's not a team that we don't expect to uh, make, make a big jump. But I think there's a couple of teams that could make a big jump. Like you said, with the Atlanta Hawks, they're very young and they made a good trade for Clint Capella. And I think all they need is just more defense and veteran players to develop those young guys and to teach them like what it's like to be in the playoffs and stuff. But another team that is very good or that could be very good next season are the Timberwolves. You look at their team; they have two former All Stars in D'Angelo Russell and Karl Anthony Towns, and they have young players like Josh Okogie and Jarrett Culver, and they haven't really been like really elite, but they are still young and they can still develop their offensive games. And you look at other players, role players like Malik Beasley or Juancho Gomez, they're both really good. And I think Malik Beasley he has averaged the most points in his career with the Timberwolves. So if they keep him and that solid group of guys around him and just develop their young players, they can make a big jump next season.
Well, for me, it's obvious that the team to pick would be the Golden State Warriors, but because it's so obvious, I'm not going to choose them. A team that's not as mentioned, however, is the New Orleans Pelicans. The New Orleans Pelicans are in the same situation the Nuggets were in 2 years ago when they barely lost out on the playoffs. They have a lot of young talent, but that talent is inexperienced. And now that they have a one more year under their belt, I feel like they'll improve significantly more next season. When you look at them, they have a couple young stars, including Josh Hart, Lonzo Ball, Brendan Ingram, and Zion Williamson, especially Zion Williamson, and Jackson Hayes along with that. You also have good role players, such as Jackson Hayes, then Nickeil Alexander-Walker, and you also have good veterans, such as Derek Favors and J.J. Redick. All of those players will have a significant impact in how their season goes, and I believe that from a fringe playoff contender, they can become a third to seventh seed in the West.
The thing about the West though is that there's so many teams competing, especially next season. You're gonna have the Warriors make the playoffs. You could see teams like the Portland Trailblazers go back into the playoffs. So it's gonna be hard for the New Orleans Pelicans to be a 3 to 7 seed. They might make the playoffs, but I'm not saying they absolutely will.
Okay, but I see your point. But if that's the case, I don't think it's going. I don't think the Timberwolves are making the playoffs next year. I don't think they're going to make a big enough jump. I understand the D'Angelo Russell and Karl Anthony Towns, but those two are terrible defenders. Karl Anthony Towns is not exactly motivated. His motives are not exactly winning. It's more about money and stats, according to what we've heard in the past couple months. And their front office and their coaching staff is a mess. Like, it's been so inconsistent. I feel like Gerson Rosas has been doing a better job, but so far they haven't had a good staff over the past few years. And I feel like the role players. I understand Malik Beasley can become the third option, the third option star for the Timberwolves, but I don't feel like there are enough pieces around the Timberwolves to do very good next year.
Yeah,
I
but
don't think. Yeah, I don't think Malik Beasley will be their third scoring option. I think. Jarrett Culver would be a good player. That rookie, he's shown potential of what he could be.
yeah, the thing about the Timberwolves is that they're still very young and they can develop their young players, but so they do have a very good draft pick probably this season, so they could snag a very good player that could make a big impact on them.
I mean, same with the Warriors. The Warriors might be scary if they get a good pick in the lottery. I mean, they're stacked. They'll have Steph Curry, Klay Thompson coming off from injury, Draymond Green. You have all those players, and they might get another rookie. A good. It's probably going to be a good rookie too.
Yeah, the the thing about them is that they're gonna be so much into the salary cap because they're gonna have to pay Andrew Wiggins, Draymond Green, Klay Thompson, and Steph Curry. So that takes
Yeah,
up.
but they have all that young talent that'll enable them to deal with those salary cap issues.
Yeah, they have to trade the player like Andrew Wiggins or Draymond Green because they are they're not that good anymore, especially Draymond Green. He's
I think Andrew Wiggins fits the system. I just don't like Draymond Green. You find Draymond Green for a bunch of picks or something like that. I think that would be good for the Warriors, so they
Yeah,
can
yeah,
they can improve their bench. All
yeah.
that.
From my sources, they've been saying that Draymond Green, they will be looking to put him on the trading block. He's not someone that they're willing to trade automatically, but if the right deal comes, they'll be listening.
I think they should trade Draymond for a guy that is a center because they haven't had a really good center since Andrew Bogut when he was with the Warriors. So I think they should try to
Yeah,
get.
but I feel like Marquise Chris can step up into that role. I mean, he's revived his career as many others have in Golden State, and according to another one of my sources, the Warriors have said that they're comfortable with Marquise Chris as their starting center.
I mean, now you have. I mean, one another reason to trade DeMarcus. I know it's kind of off topic, but Draymond. Another reason to trade Draymond. You already have Eric Pascal. I think he's proven himself as a good role player. I think he could be a potential starter on that Warriors team.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
and
get what you're saying.
the thing about Draymond is you could package him and like a pick in the future for a guy that can be a elite player, and a player that comes to mind is Rudy Gobert. And now the Jazz might not want to trade him to the Warriors, but the salary cap matches and stuff. And if you give up the right amount of assets, you could the Warriors could get Rudy Gobert and be a deadly one.
Yep. And from what I've heard, um, I think from what I've heard, the Warriors have been looking to trade their very high pick this year and the Minnesota Timberwolves top three protected pick next year, and one of their current players for a potential star in the and future assets. So I think that might be a big useful part of their trade requests.
Yeah. So with that, with the let's go back to the biggest, which a team that can make the biggest jump next season, and let's go to which team do you think could make no improvement at all, or they could just jump up and become an amazing team?
Well, put it like that, and it's a boomer bust situation. And for my team, I pick the Hawks. They have all the pieces to make the playoffs, but they have all the reasons that will enable them to not make the playoffs. I mean, they're the Hawks, and so far the past couple of years, the Hawks have proven that sometimes their players don't really know how to win. And although they have a good coach and some good players, that might be a problem because, as I said, they're the Hawks. Now, I have to give credit to their GM, as Alvin said in the earlier question. Their GM has done a very good job building around Trae Young, and they have all the talent needed to make the playoffs. In fact, people even thought they were going to make the playoffs this year, but for next year, they have talent that gained experience this year, such as Trae Young, DeAndre Hunter, Cam Reddish, Kevin Herter, John Collins, and they have veteran leaders to help along the way, including Dwayne Dedmon, Clint Capella, and Jeff Teague. With all these players, there's a real shot that they can make the playoffs in a not-so-competitive East with the bottom three seeds, and I feel like it's very possible for them.
Yeah, Alvin,
I,
what do you think?
I think I gotta go with the Kings. Even though they in the 22 team format, I don't think they will be able to make the playoffs. But just like the OKC Thunder, I don't think anyone expected them to make the playoffs. Like as like a fifth seed. I think the Kings have potential to do that, but it just depends on how all these young players play. They don't have any experience. They have good backup stats for sure. Rashawn Holmes is an up and coming player. He's been showing potential. Marvin Bagley could be a future All Star. I mean, Buddy Hield, De'Aaron Fox. They have a big three going on there, but they just have to execute and become what we always thought they were. I mean, Bielitsa, Farrell, Bazemore. Those are pretty good backups too. I mean, you can't even forget about their rookie Kyle Guy. Even though he hasn't played a lot, he showed potential in college in Virginia. I mean, he averaged around 16 points in college, and then he eventually won he took his team to the Final Four, and he eventually won that championship. I mean, I think, as I said, experience is a problem. I don't know if Luke Walton is a good coach
Yeah,
for
that
them, because
Yeah, I don't know why they fired their previous
yeah,
coach, Dave
yeah,
Jordan. That was a
yeah.
bad
Because
move.
2 seasons ago they were about to make the playoffs, and then they just fired their coach and hired Luke Walton, a guy that hasn't had much experience in the playoffs by himself as a head coach, because he's only coached the Lakers who haven't made the playoffs even with LeBron last season. So I think that was a good fit for for the Kings. I think they could have just kept David Yogurt in there.
Yeah, yeah. Alvin, what do you think is, just curious, what do you think is the biggest downfall that's possible for the Kings that would prevent them from making the playoffs?
I think it's just I mean, there is no downfall for this team. The least they could go down to is like at least fighting for the eighth seed. I mean, there's no I know the question is a boom or bust situation, but I don't see this team like failing to lose. Because if De'Aaron Fox is gone, you still have Marvin Bagley, Buddy Hield. They'll help you, but I don't think they'll win that much games. The lowest they could probably go to is like a Wizards. I mean, I don't like a Wizards record. That's what I'm talking about. But I don't see them. I don't see them going to like I don't see them losing that much games, like a lot of games. But the thing is, if you lose one of those players, I think this whole team's gonna fall down.
Yeah,
De'Aaron Fox, Buddy Hield, Marvin Bagley. If you lose one
If
of
you
those,
lose one of their core players?
yep,
yeah. I think that's what's going to limit them, especially this season. They lost, I think, Marvin Bagley like twice this season,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what could limit them because they don't have that. They do have solid role players, but most of those players are coming off their deals this year, like Bogdanovich and Bazemore and Farrell. Those players are all coming off their contracts. So I don't know if you can even re-sign them for how much they want. And even if you don't, with that core guys, Bagley, Heald, and De'Aaron Fox, that you can hope that those players don't get injured because Marvin Bagley has been injury prone these past 2 seasons.
Yeah. So as we can all see, they have all the talent and the ability to be there. They just have to execute and be in the playoffs. They just have to execute to actually make it.
Yeah. So my team, I know we're all over the place, but I think a team that could have a huge jump next season is the Chicago Bulls. I mean, this season they were expected to make the playoffs, but because of Jim Boylan, they haven't really made the playoffs. They're really low. They're I think 12th or something in the East. But I think that there's been rumors going around that Jim Boylan has parted ways with the Bulls, but it's not official yet. So I think that's why they could become a really solid team. You look at Zach LaVine, Kobe White, Wendell Carter Jr., Larry Markkinen. Those are solid pieces that you could build around. And Kobe White has developed into a player that um, developed into a really nice player because ever since or 2 weeks before the NBA season got suspended, he was putting up 30 points or 30 points, something like that, in back-to-back games. So, and he has proved to become that starting point guard. So, if Jim Boylan is fired, and I think this team could be very good.
Well, the one problem I have with the Bulls is that their players don't like it there. I mean, there's this clip of there was a game. There was 10 seconds left, and Jim Boylan called a timeout.
Yeah,
And Zach LaVine was using some expletives of how angry he was with losing.
yeah, but that wasn't really because of losing. It was just because of Jim Boylan. I think that's if
Mm-hmm.
if they fire Jim Boylan, I think the team spirit will go up.
Yeah, but another problem is, like I said, there's so many players that hate the fact that Chicago hasn't been a very good team lately. I mean, Lauri Markkinen, he's very close to requesting a trade, and since he's such an integral part, although he's regressed these past couple of seasons, he's still a very integral part of their postseason aspirations. And without him, they could be in for a longer rebuild than they expected.
Yeah, but the thing is, there's rumors going around that they said that Lauri Markkinen was happy because they hired a new GM who he thinks can improve their record by making these small moves, not huge moves, but like small moves
Mm-hmm.
like signing good role players or
Okay.
players that could impact their roster.
I think
Okay.
Jim Boylan is the coach that's holding him back. I just gotta say that. I mean, if they fire Jim Boylan, I think this team can at least compete for an 8th or 7th seed.
Yeah, I think last year.
Especially with the weak East that we have, the 6th,
Yeah,
7th, 8th seeds.
I think last year they shouldn't have fired Fred Hoiberg, even though the Bulls were bad. We kind of expected them to do that. So I think they shouldn't. I think they shouldn't have fired Fred Hoiberg, but they have very many options like David Fisdale or Tom Thibodeau, so they have options to choose.